This is Vince Lombardi, coach, general manager of the finest football team in the world, the Green Bay Packers, world champions. The Green Bay Packers, world champions in 1965. A time-hardened team that attained greatness in the face of adversity. A team that ignored injuries to key personnel and played its finest games when the chips were down. A team composed of men who perform under pressure. A team that will be remembered in years to come as a team with character. It has been said that championships are won on defense, a fierce defense composed of proud men who thrive on violence. Men like Willie Davis, a 250-pound end who hits with bone-crunching authority. A generation of quarterbacks has known and feared the driving rush of Willie Davis. The arrow is on Davis as he leads a beefy stampede over John Brodie of the 49ers. Against the Lions, Willie backtracks into the secondary and steals this George Izo pass. The man in the circle is Lionel Aldridge. Operating from the other defensive flank, the former Utah State star breaks through the Chicago line and smears quarterback Bill Wade. Ron Kostelnik is a vital part of Green Bay's defense. His explosive charge causes the Chicago quarterback to fumble, and Green Bay gains possession. Unusually quick for his size, Ron slices through the Rams' line and spins the ball carrier down for an 8-yard loss. Henry Jordan, 9 years of experience in the NFL are packed on his 250-pound frame. A crafty defensive tackle, Jordan is one of the most proficient pass rushers in the NFL. Jordan also has the speed and power to meet a big fullback and drop him in his tracks. Leroy Caffey, a young man with the stamp of stardom, a Texas-bred blockbuster, rapidly becoming one of the top linebackers in the NFL. A Caffey blitz spells disaster for the Detroit Lions. A wobbly Chicago aerial is Leroy's ticket to a touchdown as he leaps to intercept and races to the end zone for a score. Ray Nitschke, Green Bay's all-pro middle linebacker, is worth a team of lesser men. Bill Nelson of the Pittsburgh Steelers will surely endorse Ray's selection as an all-pro. Nitschke storms through a gaping hole and spills Bill for a loss of 6 yards. An expert at decoding enemy strategy, Ray picks off this toss and travels goalward. Young Dave Robinson is another key to the stubborn Green Bay defense with his ball-hawking play. Fran Tarkenton gets a rough welcome to Green Bay when Robinson twirls into the turf. Robinson excels in pass defense. John Unitas measures John Mackey for a pass. Robinson has him covered perfectly and deflects the well-aimed throw. A Viking pass backfires as Tarkenton's toss strays into Robinson's waiting arms. Dave batters upfield on a 14-yard return. But when it comes to stealing enemy passes, here's the man they can't forget. All-pro Herb Adderley parlays this juggling interception into a timely touchdown against the Baltimore Colts. Speed, savvy, and a killer instinct make Herb Adderley one of the most feared deep backs in the game. Adderley is the man who can stay step for step with the best pass receivers in the league. Herb is on his man like a wet shirt. When the pass is underthrown, he's there to intercept and its destination goal line. Adderley makes the steal against the 49ers. And it's there for all to see, a Green Bay touchdown. The name here is Willie Wood, a scrambling, free-roaming safety who specializes in the spectacular. Craig Morton of the Dallas Cowboys learns the hard way that the Green Bay defense is practically pass-proof. Willie Wood goes upstairs to intercept and weaves downfield on a 12-yard return. Willie is the little man with the big play against the Detroit Lions. He shortcuts this George Izo pass and returns 25 yards. Six years ago, Willie Wood joined the Green Bay Packers as a free agent. Today, he's an all-pro. Doug Hart, the Packers cornerback, squelches this Chicago scoring threat with a crucial interception. Tom Brown at left safety rounds out Green Bay's tight-knit pass defense, which led the NFL in interceptions and rated #1 in pro football. This interception by Brown is just one play in a season filled with defensive heroics. A season in which stellar defensive play turned the tide in many crucial ball games, like this one against the Dallas Cowboys. The Packers hold a slim 3-point margin late in the game, but Dallas has possession. Henry Jordan rips the ball loose. Davis gathers it up for Green Bay. Guard Jerry Kramer leads Jim Taylor into the end zone for the game's only touchdown, and the Packers clinch the victory 13-3. The Rams also felt the sting of the Packer defense. It's a tie ball game with a minute to play, but Kostelnik forces a fumble and the Pack recovers. With 30 seconds remaining, Don Chandler kicks Green Bay to victory 6-3. Defense is only one half of football. The other half belongs to the offense. The passers, the receivers, and the blockers whose efforts appear on the scoreboard. Pinpoint passers like Bart Starr, and sprint and catch experts like Bob Long, whose aerial tactics thrilled thousands on Sunday afternoons. Bart Starr, whose mind and arm played a vital chapter in the Green Bay's success story. In the Packers' versatile passing attack, Starr calls on Boyd Dowd, one of his many targets. Another touchdown strike to Carroll Dale. Paul Horning gathers in this toss for a long gainer. Marv Fleming is on the receiving end of this Bart Starr touchdown toss. And it was this passing game that stunned the Detroit Lions in Tiger Stadium. Trailing by 3 touchdowns midway in the third period, Bart Starr cuts loose. Bob Long makes the grab, and Carroll Dale makes the block. It's a 62-yard scoring play for Green Bay. Starr sets up shop on the Detroit 31 and finds a touchdown bargain in halfback Tom Moore. In this third quarter, Starr completed 7 of 8 passes for 225 yards and 3 touchdowns. Here, Carroll Dale latches on to a Starr aerial. Gets the goal line clearly in focus and travels 77 yards for a touchdown as Green Bay takes the lead 24-21. Tom Moore opens fourth period action with a 15-yard burst, much to the dismay of Detroit's Bruce Maher. And Starr adds the finishing touch to this stunning comeback victory over the Lions. In Minnesota, the Packers equaled an NFL record by racking up 28 points in the fourth period. Bart Starr lands a 47-yard beauty in the hands of Boyd Dowler, and the Packers take command in the fourth quarter. The defense, too, had its moments of glory in this record-setting scoring spree. Nitschke grabs a loose ball and moves to the Viking 15. And from there, the offense drives in for a touchdown. It's the Vikings in possession, but a clawing tackle dislodges the ball from Bill Brown's grasp. Doug Hart scoops it up and jogs in for a score. Desperately trying to regain the lead, Tarkenton resorts to the airwaves. But a Herb Adderley interception ends the Viking threat. Starr fires to Long for the fourth touchdown in this period. Green Bay wraps up another come-from-behind victory. When the Packers needed a lift, Zeke Bratkowski was the man who shouldered the burden. Bratkowski replaced an injured Bart Starr and engineered the Packers' final game-winning drive in the first of the 3 encounters with the Baltimore Colts. This touchdown pass from Bratkowski to Max McGee spelled defeat for Baltimore. Against the Vikings in Lambeau Field, Zeke again replaced the ailing Starr and again directed a late game-winning rally. Zeke sends Taylor around end for 15 yards. With the Packers trailing by 5 points, Brat calls on Elijah Pitts, who does some fancy stepping for another solid game. Bratkowski pitches to Bill Anderson. The big tight end shrugs off a tackler, gallops in for the winning score. Green Bay notches still another late comeback victory. As a place kicker and a punter, Don Chandler has few equals. Against the 49ers, Don's quick mind and powerful foot was a deciding factor in the Packer victory. Here he fakes a punt, runs for a crucial first down. In the same game, Don kicked 2 field goals and uncorked this booming 90-yard punt, the second longest in league history. The bags are packed. The Green Bay Packers leave for Baltimore to meet the league-leading Colts in the second-to-last game of regular season play. Vince Lombardi knows that a win over the Colts would be a down payment toward a ticket to the championship game. The team enjoys a comfortable, relaxing flight, courtesy of United Airlines, and And by the way, 13 out of the 14 teams in the NFL fly the friendly skies of United. Jim Taylor will be relying on men like Jerry Kramer and Max McGee to pry open the Colt line. A sellout crowd packs Baltimore's Memorial Stadium to see the two titans of the West in action. A thick fog settles on the field as the Packers threatened early. Starr finds Jim Taylor open and throws. The piston-legged fullback drives headlong into a knot of Baltimore tacklers and is seemingly trapped. But there's no stopping Taylor today. He slips loose and proceeds to the Colt 3-yard line. Center Ken Bowman leads Horning to pay dirt, and Green Bay is ahead. It's third and short yardage, but Starr gambles with a long pass. Horning is in the clear. The pass is on target. Horning goes all the way. Hall racked up 5 touchdowns in this game, establishing a new Green Bay record. Late in the first half, Baltimore threatens to take the lead. Gary Quazzo throws into the flat. Dave Robinson stretches to intercept and sets out for the Baltimore goal. A saving tackle by Lenny Moore prevents an immediate score, but this was a significant play. The Packer defense denied the Colts a score, and in so doing set up this Starr to Dowler touchdown. This play proved the turning point in the game. For Green Bay, an overwhelming victory. For Paul Horning, a return to greatness. But this touchdown pass from the 49ers' John Brody to young Vern Burke sent the Packers into another game with the tough Baltimore Colts. This one a sudden death playoff for the Western Division title. An enthusiastic crowd jams the cold confines of Lambeau Field to witness the historic playoff. Tragedy strikes the Packers on their first play. Starr connects with Anderson, but he fumbles. Don Shinnick gathers in the ball and races for a score. Green Bay not only gives up a touchdown, but also Bart Starr, who is forced to withdraw from the game. Lou Michaels adds a field goal in the second period, and the Colts have a 10-point margin at halftime. In the third quarter, a high pass from center causes Tom Gilberg to make a run for it. He fails, and the Packers take over on the Baltimore 35. Bratkowski steps in at quarterback and immediately makes his presence felt. Carroll Dale's diving grab makes it goal to go. Horning falls in behind Fuzzy Thurston. Green Bay is on the scoreboard. The stubborn Colts throttle the Packers until late in the fourth period, when Bratkowski tosses to Anderson. Taylor rumbles for 4 yards, but Green Bay, trailing by 3 points, must go to the air. Bratkowski finds Anderson open on a deep hook pattern to put Green Bay in field goal range with hopes of tying the game. Don Chandler is the man who can be counted on to deliver the key play when it is most needed. His placement curves between the uprights to send the game into sudden death overtime. A staunch defense stymies the Colts, and the Packers gain the ball in the overtime period. The Bratkowski to Anderson battery continues its success. A Bratkowski to Dale completion, and Green Bay is in field goal range. The unerring toe of Don Chandler directs the ball through the goalposts, and the Green Bay Packers to the Western Division crown. Vince Lombardi claims his 4th divisional championship in his 7th year as head coach of the Packers. The day of the World Championship is wet, cold, and snowy. grounds crew works overtime to clear the playing field. Representing the Eastern Division, the Cleveland Browns, an offense-minded powerhouse that swept to an easy victory in the East. Tom Moore returns the opening kickoff 24 yards. Bart Starr, back at quarterback, throws to Jim Taylor for a first down. Starr completes a short swing pass to his other setback, Paul Hornung. With the Browns anticipating another short pass, Starr goes for the bomb. Harold Dale makes the catch, sidesteps a would-be tackler, glides into the end zone for a touchdown. Green Bay scores first and leads 7-0. The Browns are quick to retaliate as Frank Ryan sends Jim Brown deep, then hits him for a 30-yard advance. Dr. Ryan finds his all-pro flanker Gary Collins in the corner of the end zone for a Cleveland touchdown. The subsequent Rosa field goal vaults the Browns into a short-lived lead. Jerry Kramer leads the way as Paul Hornung negotiates a 34-yard gain through the mud. A Starr to Dowler completion moves the ball deep into Cleveland territory, where a Don Chandler field goal puts Lombardi's Legions back into the lead, 10-9. In the second period, Ryan takes to the air lanes. This time he is not as fortunate as Bob Jeter deflects his pass intended for Paul Warfield. Green Bay's superb pass defense, which played a significant part in this championship game, foils Ryan again. Willie Wood, the Packers' free safety, flies in front of Leroy Kelly to make a reaching interception. Wood's defensive heroics set the stage for another Don Chandler field goal, which boosted the Packers to a 13-9 edge. Late in the first half, Ryan resumes his aerial assault. Jeter and Tom Brown combine to knock down this pass intended for Gary Collins. Play gets underway in the second half as Collins punts to Elijah Pitts. Elijah slips, slides, and dodges, but finds little running room as he goes down on the Packer 10. Thurston escorts Hornung for 5 yards as the Packer juggernaut starts to roll. Forrest Gregg and Jerry Kramer lead a blocking convoy for Jim Taylor, who gains 5 more yards. Taylor grinds through mud and tacklers as the Packers gain momentum. The Bayou Blaster leaves a scattered trail of Browns as he slams for 10 well-earned yards. Hornung takes a handoff from Starr, and when Taylor drives out the corner linebacker, the Golden Boy has an open track for a 20-yard advance. Hornung adds the final 13 yards to this 90-yard scoring march as he slogs through the slippery turf for a touchdown. The Green Bay Packers hold an 8-point margin midway in the third quarter. Desperately trying for a much-needed touchdown, Ryan arches a long pass to Jim Brown. Only the outstretched hand of Ray Nitschke prevents a Cleveland score. In the final quarter, the Packers continue to batter the Browns line. Taylor gets 7 yards. Behind Bob Skoronski, Taylor racks up a 6-yard gain to put the Packers in field goal range. In the art of place kicking, Don Chandler has few peers. His 29-yard placement splits the uprights. Green Bay leads by 11 points. A smiling Jim Taylor knows that the Packers are on victory's doorstep. In a last-ditch scoring try, Frank Ryan's pass is too long for Gary Collins, but just right for Herb Adderley, who intercepts and clinches the victory. For the jubilant Green Bay Packers and coach Vince Lombardi, it is a satisfying 23-12 conquest and football's world championship. A team with character, a team with pride, a team of desire. Green Bay Packers, world champions.
I'm Frank Gifford. Here in Green Bay, they explain the world champion Packers with a single word: work. Coach Vince Lombardi says that those who seek success in pro football must never stop working for it. Over and over, the men of Lombardi are drilled to do everything the right way. Teams that meet the Packers know that while they may play even with Green Bay for a while, as soon as they make a mistake, there'll be a Packer around to take advantage of it. This premier showing of the Packers' championship trail in the great 1966 season proves that the champs do their pregame homework and hardly ever forget their lessons once that whistle sounds.
In the turbulent years of the 20s, pro football was born. In small towns throughout America, pro teams sprang up, prospered briefly, and died. But in one, the team survived. In Green Bay, Wisconsin, a team was founded with $500 put up by a meatpacking company. They became known as the Packers. There were no stadiums, no tickets. The earnings were meager, but the club survived. In 1921, the team became one of the charter members of the National Football League. In 1959, Vince Lombardi came to coach the Packers. He taught a Spartan game that required sacrifice, dedication, and self-denial. For many, it was too tough. They left and never came back. But the proud and the strong remained to become the nucleus of a team which has dominated pro football ever since.
The men who wanted to stay, they're still here. And let me tell you this, Green Bay is a great town for football.
And football is a way of life in Green Bay.
Well, goodness, I haven't missed a game in 15 years.
Boy, our boys are really going to clobber those Bears this Sunday. I'm sure they're going to win.
You can be Star. You can be Creamer. I want to be Creamer. I want to be Star. I want to be Star.
There is never an empty seat in Lambeau Stadium. The only way anyone gets to see a game is by buying a season ticket, and that takes years of waiting.
Johnny, numbers, pictures here. Line up today program. The official program. Line up today, boys.
The reason is the Packers themselves. They are the current wonder team of football and the last of the town teams. Packers are the irresistible force in pro football. A sort of force of nature. The river that won't stay away from your door. The boulder in Boulder Dam. They face their opponents with a sword in one hand and a sledgehammer in the other. The Packers are tactically correct on nearly every play. The play mix is delicate and varied. Not every call works, of course, but nearly every call is the right one. The plays are classic and the formations few. They have an offense that can challenge every part of a defense, but it's not fancy. Coach Lombardi prides himself on emphasizing the running game, but his team easily reverses the pattern and still wins. Quarterback Bart Starr has often been referred to as a percentage passer, which implies he goes for the shorter, more easily completed passes. And yet last season, 9 of his 14 touchdown passes were on plays beyond 40 yards. His receivers have been better this season than ever before, though they're all the same people. The greatest improvement has come from tight end Marv Fleming, number 81. At 6'4", 235 pounds, he outweighs defensive backs by 40 pounds. Swift Carroll Dale at split end is the most dangerous long-distance threat. His substitute, Bob Long, is even faster. Flanker Boyd Dowler is a primary target when the big play is needed. The Packers frequently prefer to use halfback Elijah Pitts on swing passes and circle routes. Starr's favorite stunt on third down is to find fullback Jim Taylor emerging late from the backfield. With the exception of Starr, it is difficult to single out any one member of the Packer offensive machine. It's like naming the best part of a Rolls Royce. It is the defense which gives Green Bay its personality as a team. In the defensive backfield, there is all kinds of talent, ranging from Willie Wood, the ball-hawking free safety, to Herb Adderley, number 26, who hasn't made a tackle below the jawline in years. The game they play is fast and vicious. Every pass receiver is a marked man. But if there is a player other teams love to hate, it's Ray Nitschke, number 66, Green Bay's all-pro middle linebacker. Nitschke and his corner men, Leroy Cathey, number 60, and Dave Robinson, number 89, are widely acknowledged as the best set of linebackers in the NFL. The front four consists of Willie Davis, Henry Jordan, Ron Kostelnik, and Lionel Aldridge. Their pass rush is so effective that the Packers blitzed the linebackers less than any other pro team. This defense contributed 6 touchdowns by interception. That's 1 out of every 7 Green Bay scored. In 1966, the Packers combined their near-perfect defense with a steady offense to claim their 4th world title in the last 8 seasons. They won 14 out of 16 games and came within 4 points of an undefeated season. The Baltimore Colts, vengeful and defiant after their second-place finish in 1965, were eagerly anticipating the first game of the new season. John Unitas was hot for all but the last 2 minutes of the first half, but that brief letdown was fatal to Baltimore. Pouncing on Unitas's passes, the Packers won the game in those moments on 2 beautiful interceptions, the first by Leroy Caffey, the second by Bob Jeter. Both were returned for touchdowns and triggered Green Bay to a smashing 24-3 triumph. In the season's second contest, the Packers met the Browns. Gary Collins boosted Cleveland to a quick lead. But in the best Lombardi tradition, Green Bay took command in the pinches. 2 decisive 4th down pass plays were the margin of victory. On 4th and 1, on his own 40-yard line, Bart Starr connected with Paul Hornung on a daring call that accounted for the Packers' first score. The second big play came with 2 minutes left in the game. The Packers trailed by 6 points. With it 4th and goal, Starr passed to Jim Taylor. The play covered only 8 yards, but it won the game. In the third game of the season, the Packers figured to have their hands full with a Ram team that was also unbeaten. They made it look easy. Bart Starr found the Los Angeles defense to his liking and passed Green Bay to an easy victory and sole possession of first place. By midseason, the Packers had established themselves as solid favorites to retain their championship. The Atlanta Falcons were the Packers' 7th opponent. The league's youngest member never had a chance. Rookie Donnie Anderson, in his first extended appearance, exploded for 2 touchdowns, one on a sparkling 77-yard punt return. Green Bay's tight-knit secondary contributed 4 interceptions. Doug Hart, number 43, and Herb Adderley converted 2 of them into touchdowns. Final score, Green Bay 56, Atlanta 3. The following week, Elijah Pitt scored 3 touchdowns against Detroit, in the finest day of his career. He got the first one with a 4-yard run in the second period. And in the gray twilight, he concluded the afternoon scoring with a 3-yard plunge. In between, he dominated the contest. At the finish, it was Green Bay 31, Detroit 7. November 20th, another Sunday in Titletown, another game. But this day and this game were unlike any other. The Packers and George Halas's Chicago Bears were playing for the 96th time, the NFL's longest and fiercest rivalry. It was a raw, mean, old-fashioned professional football game. There were no heroes, there was no glory. It was trench warfare, waged by Bob Skoronski, Forrest Gregg, Jerry Kramer, and Fuzzy Thurston, old pros who understand the high price of victory. It was a battle won by elementary maneuvers. The unsparing Green Bay defense held Gale Sayers to 68 yards rushing in 20 carries. Green Bay's offense, under the intelligent marshaling of Zeke Bratkowski, struck for 2 touchdowns, which were enough for victory. A bright autumn moon provided a backdrop for a story of revenge. 3 weeks before, the Minnesota Vikings had handed the Packers a startling defeat. But today, Green Bay simply outclassed the Vikings. They out-defensed them, outran them, and out-scrambled them. When things slowed down, Bart Starr patiently destroyed the Viking defense with crisp, precise passes. Jim Taylor, Green Bay's savage fullback, was knocked senseless in the first quarter. After a short breather on the sideline, Taylor returned to the game and blasted to a 14-yard touchdown, which put the Packers in command 21-3 at the half. In the second half, this story became entirely the property of defensive end Willie Davis, number 87. It was he who struck the deadly blows, made the vital moves, which placed victory far beyond Minnesota's reach. Packers 28, Vikings 16. Victory with vengeance. Coach Lombardi's pregame instructions were to the point. Stop Unitas. Stop him cold. The Western Crown is ours. In a tense, stirring game, the Packers defeated their closest rivals, the Baltimore Colts, for the second time in 1966. Quarterback Zeke Bretkowski presided on an 81-yard touchdown drive that gave the Packers a 4-point lead late in the game. Unitas, in typical fashion, drove his team downfield in the waning minutes. However, the Miracle Man had run out of miracles. With 1 minute to go, Unitas crossed up the Green Bay defense by running up the middle, but a slamming tackle by Willie Davis jarred the ball loose. Dave Robinson recovered for the Packers, and the Colts' championship dreams, glimmering anyway, were turned to ashes. The Green Bay Packers strode off the field, champions of the West. On the first Sunday of 1967, the Packers met the Dallas Cowboys in the Cotton Bowl for the NFL championship.
Wedge, let's get a block in there. Put him down. I don't say adios. That means I got him.
All the pressure and all the frenzy of an entire season was wrapped neatly into a single game.
Field goal team, be ready here.
After all the fumbles, the long passes, and the fierce hitting, the whole thing boiled down to 4 Cowboy plays from the 2-yard line in the last minutes of the game. The Packers led by 7 points, but a Dallas touchdown would send the game into sudden death. A penalty and a grim Packer defense combined to make it 4th and goal. The entire game focused sharply on this one critical play. Dave Robinson forced Don Meredith to throw off balance. Tom Brown intercepted the wobbly pass. And here in the end zone, under the blazing lights, the Cowboys' desperate title bid expired. The Packers were champions again. But now, for the first time, there was one more game to be played. On January 15th, 1967, in the Los Angeles Coliseum, the Packers met the Kansas City Chiefs of the AFL with pro football's world championship at stake. On Green Bay's third play from scrimmage, Boyd Dowler injured his shoulder and was forced to withdraw from the game. Enter Max McGee. Although the oldest player on the field, Max emerged as the game's surprising hero. Ranging freely through Kansas City's porous defense, McGee caught 7 passes, 2 for touchdowns. With Max leading the way, the Packers gained momentum after a slow start. In the second half, the first game between the long feuding leagues became a rout. The Packers struck savagely and often at the Chiefs' weak spots and won easily 35-10. They demonstrated to their own satisfaction and to the AFL that they were indeed the finest football team in the world. A team of strong, dedicated men who met the rigorous challenge of their game and emerged the master. The 1966 world title belongs to the big team from the small town.
Remember to see more National Football League action next week. Since 1965, only one light has burned in the National Football League. It has glowed constantly for the proud Packers of Green Bay, Wisconsin. In Lambeau Stadium on December 31st, 1967, they won their third consecutive NFL title, a feat never before accomplished in the modern history of the game. This is simply about the way it was, starting with the first championship season, starting with that gloomy December day in 1965, when the Packers met the Colts in Baltimore to determine first place in the Western Division.
Don Shula and the rest of the Baltimore Colts.
One man can't win a championship, but certainly no one man contributed more in the crucial games of the 1965 season than Paul Hornung, number 5. Against the Colts, he scored 5 touchdowns and led Green Bay to a resounding victory and a half-game lead in the Western Division. But at the season's end, the Colts and the Packers were tied, and in a playoff game in Lambeau Stadium, they battled to a 10-10 deadlock. After 14 minutes of sudden death overtime, Green Bay's dreams of the Western title rode on the right foot of Don Chandler. His field goal attempt cleared the crossbar with ease and cleared the way to the first championship game. 1 week later on the same field, Green Bay head coach Vince Lombardi saw Chandler and Hornung lead the Packers to the NFL title with a 23-12 victory over the Cleveland Browns. In 1966, quarterback Bart Starr passed Green Bay to an easy victory in the Western Division. In the championship game in the Cotton Bowl, Starr ripped open the Dallas Cowboys with 4 touchdown passes, and Green Bay won 34-27. 2 weeks later against the Kansas City Chiefs of the AFL, Starr directed the Packers to a convincing triumph in the first Super Bowl game. The second straight championship was won, but the greatest challenge was still to be faced. The stern voice of Coach Lombardi heralded the opening of the 1967 season.
This year we face the greatest challenge we have ever faced. We will be in quest of an unprecedented third straight championship, something no team has ever accomplished.
Coach Lombardi faced the greatest challenge with a team that was torn and battered. A rugged exhibition schedule had left Bart Starr a mass of bruises, and the Packers' offensive firepower was severely diminished. As a result, Green Bay relied on the strength of its defense to win. After an opening day tie with Detroit, the Packers held the Chicago Bears to a total of 6 first downs and earned their first victory of the year. In the season's third game, the Atlanta Falcons ran 50 plays and gained only 58 yards. Not once did they cross the Packer goal as Green Bay registered a 23-0 shutout. Against the Detroit Lions, the Packer defense did a vicious job, and few will forget the beating Milt Plum received at the hands of Henry Jordan and Willie Davis. And few will forget Ray Nitschke's game-breaking touchdown run with a deflected pass that clinched Green Bay's third victory. So, through the first part of the season, the defense kept Green Bay's title hopes alive. And throughout the remainder of the year, it would be the determining factor in the Packers' success. It is an aggressive defense that intimidates opponents, wears them down, and disorganizes their offensive patterns. Its true worth can be judged by the fact that 8 of its 11 members have, at one time or another, been honored by selection on various all-pro teams. The oldest and most respected member of the Packer defense is End Willie Davis, number 87, a 5-time All-Pro from Grambling College. Davis teams with Lionel Aldridge, number 82, to give the Packers 2 of the quickest ends in the league. Veteran tackle Henry Jordan combines guile and strength to reach the quarterback. His partner, Ron Kostelnik, disdains guile in favor of pure strength. Backing up the front line, there is Ray Nitschke, number 66, a veteran of 10 years and the most feared middle linebacker in football. Above all, Nitschke is a leader who carries the rest of the defense with him. Dave Robinson, number 89, has played only half as long as Nitschke, but already his speed, intelligence, and mobility have earned him the accolade as the game's finest corner linebacker. The third Green Bay linebacker is number 60, Leroy Caffey, a damaging blitzer who tackles with enthusiasm and effect. Behind this impressive trio of linebackers is the best pair of cornerbacks in the game. All-Pro Bob Jeter, number 21, led the Packers in interceptions with 8, while Herb Adderley had 6, 2 of which he returned for touchdowns. The flamboyant play of these 2 cornerbacks is balanced by the conservative but alert play of the safeties, veteran Willie Wood, number 24, and steady Tom Brown, number 40. Supported by this defense, the Packers held up through the first 4 games without a loss. But with their crippled offense, they were an incomplete team. In fact, rumor had it that the champion Packers were dead. They still wore the same green jerseys and gold helmets, and they still had a concrete defense. but their offense had suffered critical breakdowns. And when they lost to the Minnesota Vikings in the season's 5th game, their future was as much in question as their offense. After their loss to the Vikings, the Packers arrived at Yankee Stadium to play the Giants. To Green Bay's proud old veterans, this game had a special significance. Jerry Kramer explains why.
We started out rather haphazardly the first few games of the season, and then there was a great attack upon us by the press media that we were all old, that we were over the hill, that the Packers are all old men. And a number of articles about the old Green Bay Packers. They're too old, they're over the hill, over the hump, a number of other things. In New York, against the Giants, Bob Skoronski in his pregame speech got up and said, "I'm tired as hell about being called an old man." He said, "I'm up to here with it," and I think everyone else on the club was too. We were a little mad, not particularly at the Giants, but at the newspaper people more so than anybody else, and we had a little something to prove. They inspired us. They gave us a reason to play.
The Packers crushed the Giants 48-21 and proved that all they had lost during the early uncertain days of the season was the use of their quarterback, Bart Starr. Zeke Bretkowski had done a capable job filling in for Starr. He is a good quarterback, but Starr is a great one. And with him back in the lineup, the Packers became a championship team again. They rolled up 400 yards against the Giants and seemed bent on refuting the experts who had predicted the end of the Green Bay dynasty. In the first half of the season, the defense had kept the Packers in contention. And now in the second half, when it counted most, the offense would carry them to the title. It was Starr who brought on the renaissance of Green Bay's attack, time and again in crucial third down situations when success was vital to keep scoring drives in progress. Starr demonstrated his celebrated coolness in the face of the enemy. And when the occasion arose, he proved to be an adequate scrambler as well. One reason Starr is such a good quarterback is that he never throws the ball unless he is reasonably sure that it will reach the hands of a teammate. He would accept a momentary setback and patiently wait for the appropriate moment in which to strike. With Starr back in shape, the Packer receivers once again enjoyed prosperity. Ward Dowler, number 86, the tall ex-hurdler from Colorado, was the Packers' leading receiver with 63 catches. Dowler is tall enough to outreach most defensive backs and fast enough to run by them. Max McGee, infinitely wise after 12 years in the NFL, has a certain genius for producing the big play. McGee is a spot player, but Carroll Dale is not, and he shares much of McGee's wisdom and has more speed. the backfield, Green Bay had a seemingly endless abundance of running backs. Elijah Pitts and Jim Grabowski started the season. Against the Bears, Grabowski carried the ball 32 times and gained 111 yards. Elijah Pitts, number 22, is not as big as Grabowski, but he hurts when he hits. And his balance and quickness make him especially effective on Green Bay's most famous running play, the power sweep. Pitts also excels in the clutch. Against the Detroit Lions, he raced 84 yards with a pass to set up Don Chandler's last-second game-tying field goal. Due to injuries, neither Grabowski nor Pitts finished the season. Ben Wilson, number 36, replaced Grabowski. He boomed and barreled his way for 531 yards and was Green Bay's top rusher in 4 games. Donnie Anderson, number 44, took over for the ailing Pitts and quickly established himself as a genuine triple threat. A runner, kicker, and passer, as well as a skillful blocker and a sure-handed pass receiver. Anderson's long stride covers much ground, and he runs with reckless abandon. When Anderson was slowed by a hip injury, the Packers went to the 3rd string to discover a new star, rookie Travis Williams. He is a 9'3" sprinter who weighs 210 pounds and has the credentials to become the next great running back in pro football. In 1967, however, Williams paid his biggest dividend to the Packers as a kick returner. He led the league in this department and provided some of the season's most memorable moments. In a close battle with the St. Louis Cardinals, Williams ripped off a 94-yard kick return that won the game for the Packers. Weeks later, he single-handedly destroyed the Cleveland Browns when he returned 2 kickoffs for touchdowns and sparked Green Bay to a smashing 55-7 victory. By November, all the parts of the Green Bay machine were functioning smoothly. In the 11th game of the season, the Packers crushed the Chicago Bears and proved that they were the best team in the Central Division. 1 month later, they would prove for the 3rd year in a row that they were the best team in the Western Conference. Until December 23rd, there were those who said the Los Angeles Rams were the strongest team in football. They had won 10 straight games, and their defensive line, the so-called fearsome foursome, was the toughest in the league. Then on a dark day in Milwaukee, the Green Bay Packers proved that the Rams were not even the best team in the Western Conference. With the Western title at stake, Green Bay's defense, led by Henry Jordan, dropped Roman Gabriel 5 times for losses. On offense, Bart Starr completed 74% of his passes. Carroll Dale was the leading receiver, making 6 receptions for 109 yards and 1 touchdown. Bob Skoronski, Forrest Gregg, Gail Gillingham, and Ken Bowman opened gaping holes in the fearsome foursome. Chuck Mercine and Travis Williams sped through them and ran the Packers to a 28-7 win. Gimmick nicknames have not romanticized the Green Bay Packers. Otherwise, after this game, somebody would have dubbed them the Fearsome 40. On the coldest New Year's Eve in the cold, cold history of Green Bay, the Packers met the Dallas Cowboys of the Eastern Conference for the championship of the National Football League. After 55 minutes of play, the Cowboys led by 3 points, and most of the crowd had almost decided to go home, warm up, and drown their sorrows with a sad New Year's Eve celebration. But in the final frozen moments, the Packers burrowed deep into that reservoir of experience and determination that has accumulated in their unequal 3-year reign as champions of the world. They toiled 67 yards in 4.5 minutes to the threshold of pro football history. One yard, the clock, and the brave Dallas defense were all that stood between the Packers and the impossible dream. An entire season's work depended on this one final play. Jerry Kramer reveals that it was engineered with Green Bay's typical attention to detail.
We spend hours and hours and hours looking at the films and the minutest detail. We even take every goal line play out and put them in a separate reel. And traditionally, your defensive linemen on the goal line charge in low and hard. And oftentimes, they what we call submarine. They just bury their head on the ground so that they can't be moved back. We found in viewing the Dallas films that Jethro Pugh was a little higher than the other people and that he could possibly be moved a little bit easier. So we had decided prior to the game that if we were going to run a wedge, we would run it on Jethro.
Jerry Kramer drove out Jethro Pugh and steered Bart Starr to the championship of the National Football League. There it was, only one play, one block in a long season of plays and blocks in 1-yard game. But it was a play to remember, a play that tells you what the Green Bay Packers are all about. Guts, determination, and Coach Vince Lombardi.
I think it's because of Coach Lombardi, and I don't believe there's any question about it. He has made the comment a number of times that he said, and I've never believed this before, but I'm beginning to. He said, "You're not the greatest athletes in the world." He says, "We've got guys same size, same speed, same mental ability as most of you people. But he says, there's something a little more." He says, "We look for a little bit of character in an individual. He molds that character or that something that's intangible, something special about you. And if you don't have it, you don't stay in Green Bay very long. And if you do have it or have a chance to have it, he brings it out of you and develops it in you."
With an icy victory in the NFL championship, the Packers won the right to move south to Miami for the Super Bowl. On the eve of the World Championship, the Packers' clean jerseys concealed the raw truth of a hard-fought season. Against the Oakland Raiders, the Packers shook off the painful legacy of a rugged 16-game season and smashed to a 33-14 triumph and football's world championship. When it was over, Vince Lombardi left the field on the shoulders of his men, acclaimed the greatest coach of football's greatest team. And it is as a team that the Green Bay Packers will be remembered. For 10 years, Jerry Kramer has been part of that team. He was there in the fog and in the snow and mud of 1965. He was there in the Texas sun of 1966. And he was there in Miami at his coach's side. He can tell it the way it really is.
There are no special stars on the club. It's just a tremendous group of guys. I've had a tremendous association with these people. They're great people, they're fun people, they're good people. And my big enjoyment out of the game is the people I associate with. I'll tell you in a nutshell, if you can understand this. I play pro football because of Emlyn Tunnell, Bill Quinlan, Dan Curry, Paul Horning, Fuzzy Thurston, Max McGee, Henry Jordan,
Herb Adderley, Ray Nitschke, Dave Robinson, Bart Starr. They will be remembered as the faces of victory. They will be remembered for their coach, whose iron discipline was the foundation on which they built a fortress. And most of all, they will be remembered as a group of men who faced the greatest challenge their sport has ever produced and conquered.
During the 1960s, the Green Bay Packers won 5 world championships. The key to their dominance was defense, and the key to their defense was Ray Nitschke. His threatening appearance and nasty temperament once caused Los Angeles columnist Jim Murray to write, "The Green Bay Packers came here by jet, but Ray Nitschke just rode his broomstick." Off the field, however, Nitschke was a caring, sensitive person who devoted his time to raising a family rather than raising hell. Yet, his fearsome image is part of his story, and he will be forever remembered for the savage figure he cut on the field. If looks could kill, then he would have claimed many victims. Fortunately for the NFL, Ray Nitschke only scared his opponents to death.
When Ray Nitschke loomed over center, he displayed the frightening intensity of a man peering through the bars of a padded cell.
He was a wild man on the field. He had a gleam in his eyes, and I used to get under Tingelhoff and look over, and there was Nitschke with a gleam in his eyes that nobody else I'd ever played against ever had.
I lined up under the center, and the first guy I look at is Nitschke, and he's foaming at the mouth out there, and he's panting and moving back, and I said, "This is the ugliest, meanest looking person I have ever seen."
Ray Nitschke had a menacing, terrifying presence on the field. Just his demeanor, the way he carried himself, but most of all, the collisions he caused.
On game day, Nitschke's pitiless, punishing personality made him seem like the successful result of a laboratory experiment designed to build the perfect beast.
It wasn't a Jekyll Hyde presence, it was just Hyde. It was just total absence of any concern or compassion for another human being.
But Nitschke's snarling, sneering game face was a mask that hid a gentle nature. He was a devoted family man who provided his wife and 3 adopted children with the love that had been lacking from his own troubled childhood. Orphaned at age 13, he was a misguided youth who found direction on the football field.
I think you're all creatures of your development, and my childhood wasn't that good, and so I think football kind of gave me a chance to be aggressive.
The sport gave Nitschke a sense of identity that enabled him to succeed as a pro. He established his reputation in 1962 when he was named the most valuable player of the NFL title game against the New York Giants. After leaving his signature on this contest, he signed in as a guest on television's What's My Line?
Now let's meet another challenger. Will you enter and sign in, please? Raymond Nitschke, is that right? Do you know how we score on What's My Line?
Yes.
Fine, then let's let the audience home and the audience in the theater know exactly what your line is. All right, panel, we can tell you that our guest is salaried and deals in a service. And let's begin the general questioning with Dorothy Kilgallen.
Mr. Mitski, are you connected with the government?
No.
That's 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mr. Mitski, you look singularly like some of those fellows I saw plowing around in the cold this afternoon in that football game. May I take it for granted that you are not on either of the active squads?
No, you may not take that for granted. That's 2 down and 8 to go. Done it again,
He's very quiet and reserved, which would lead one to believe he'd be with the Giants, but I think he's with the Green Bay Packers.
We were really having some fun. We thought with the glasses and Ray's very quiet nature that we might get away with this for a while, and we did, actually. Well, Ray, needless to say, we congratulate you and all of your colleagues. It was a great game. We're sorry, Martin and I particularly, to see our Giants lose, but if they had to lose, they certainly lost to a great team. And to the greatest middle linebacker in the leagues, thanks very much for being our guest on What's My Line.
In a suit and tie, the bespectacled Nitschke seemed an unlikely candidate for celebrity. But in Packer green and gold, he commanded center stage. He held the spotlight throughout the 60s by terrorizing his opponents and his teammates.
Ray didn't care if it was Bart Starr or Paul Hornung. He's going to hit them. If they come close to him, he's going to hit them.
When you went to block Nitschke, you know you had to scrimmage. Otherwise, you might get one of those big forearms in your teeth and come off with your ears ringing.
Ray and I would have pretty close to 1 or 2 fights every time we played each other. To me, it was a challenge. To him, it was war and destruction.
Nitschke patrolled a football field as if it were a battlefield. He thrived on hand-to-hand combat and prided himself on being the ultimate warrior.
Ray Nitschke wanted to be a complete football player. He not only wanted to play the run real well, but he wanted to play the pass. He wanted to be a total defensive football player. And he wanted to be at the right place at the right time.
Like all great warriors, he earned the respect of his foes.
Nitschke was the best I've ever played against consistently. He was the best middle linebacker I've ever played. I mean, he took no prisoners.
During 15 glorious campaigns, Ray Nitschke inflicted many wounds and suffered a few himself. He led the charge for the Green Bay Packers defense, and they followed him into pro football history.
Nitschke was more than a middle linebacker. He was really the inspiration of the Packers. I think his teammates were really afraid not to play well with him around.
He played, I believe, 15 or 16 years, and I'm sure, and he told me that he was capable of playing a couple more years, that the coach didn't realize what he was doing when he cut him. That, yeah, man, I can play. I can go, man. I can still do it. And that voice of his. But Raymond was always ready to play.
I played on some great football teams in a great town, and I had no player would ever had a better career than Ray Nitschke had in Green Bay. So when I retired, I was pleased that I fulfilled the dream that I had, and it was a great career.
He won the Heisman Trophy as a quarterback at the University of Notre Dame, and he was a first-round draft choice for the Green Bay Packers in 1957. When he arrived in Green Bay, the only feasible legend in the region was the amount of booze consumed in the town's 197 bars. But after he left, 9 years later, Green Bay had become known as Titletown, USA. He led the Packers to 3 world championships. Twice, he was the league's most valuable player, and for 3 consecutive years, he led the NFL in scoring. And he was probably the best blocking back the game has ever known. Because of his narrow, sloping shoulders, his teammates nicknamed him Goat Shoulders, or Goat for short. But perhaps you remember him better as the Golden Boy. Paul Hornung is the subject of our NFL scrapbook.
Paul, when he came to school, was the blue-eyed, blonde, good-looking, probably going to be a movie star kid, and cocky, unpredictable. Except in a game, he was predictable. He was going to give you his all.
In recent years, many schools have had teams named Desire. In 1956, Notre Dame had a football team named Horning. Horning, number 5, did everything. He led the Irish in scoring, passing, pass interceptions, and punting, and won the Heisman Trophy. Horning was a flamboyant, free spirit who broke as many curfews as he did tackles.
Well, see, Paul, you could talk about a lot of things. You talk about his women, and I'm not sure he had all those chicks. You could talk about staying out late at night. So did the rest of us. But we didn't make good news. It was Paul, and we understood that. And even today in his commercials, when he talks about practice, 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 I don't know if he's that good.
Horning was drafted by the Packers and wasn't happy with the prospect of life in Green Bay, playing for a team that hadn't enjoyed a winning season since the end of World War II.
Well, it was the Siberia of professional football. I mean, anybody who was caught doing anything wrong throughout the National Football League, they were always threatened that they were going to be traded to Green Bay, you know. So my first year in professional football, I played quarterback, halfback, and fullback, all 3 positions. I never knew what I was going to play.
In 1958, Horning led the Packers in rushing, but there wasn't much fun playing for a team that won only 1 game the entire season.
So those first couple of years, I think I was like everybody else. I wanted to get out. I wanted to be traded. And then Lombardi arrived in 1959. And he called me on the telephone. He said, I'd really like to spend some time with you, but I want to tell you right now, you're going to be my left halfback, or you're not going to be playing with the Green Bay Packers. And that was the first time that I really knew what I was going to be playing in professional football, because here was a man who had decided on the talent of Paul Horning would lay or either fail as a left halfback in his offense.
He was a good runner, and he was a halfback type of runner rather than a fullback type of runner. And also, of course, the fact that he was a quarterback, he had a good passing arm, he had a good knowledge of the passing game, and he knew when to throw. He liked some things. For example, he did not have great speed, for example. If Horning had great speed, he might very well go down in history as the greatest halfback of all time.
In 1960, Horning set an NFL record that may never be broken when he scored 176 points in 1 season.
He's got to be, I would say, the greatest competitor that I've ever coached. The tougher the game, the tougher he played.
He had a nose for the goal line. I think Paul Horning was as good inside the 20-yard line as any football player I've ever known. I played with him. I felt that at the time. When Paul got the ball in his hand inside the 20-yard line, I just felt like that somehow or another we would get it in, or he would get it in.
He was big. Paul, I guess, about 6'2", 6'3", and at the time about 230, and he could block.
In spite of Horning's glamorous image, his blocking was just as vital to the Packers' success as his ball carrying. On the field, Horning captured the best of the game's traditional values. Off the field, he remained football's most notorious playboy.
Being the fine person, the high quality values that he had, he certainly had very strong leadership qualities off the football field.
Come on, Roy, quit laughing, man. Quit laughing. The broads that he brought in. The broads that he brought in, that's the name of the game. You do your job on the field, and if you're bad on the field, and you be bad off the field with the chicks, all right?
Well, Paul was the golden boy, obviously. He was a little bit different than, as a player, than what I was accustomed to coaching, and I didn't have an opportunity to coach him, but he was a talented player. And I respected Vince Lombardi so much, so I know that Paul had to stay at least within Lombardi's guidelines to play with him, so it wasn't all bad.
What was bad was Horning's penchant for gambling, and his friendship with bookmakers prompted an investigation by Commissioner Pete Rozelle.
After I completed my investigation, I asked Lombardi to come to New York, and he didn't ask why. He came in, and I just pushed the folder across containing the information that I'd accumulated, and Lombardi looked at it for about 5 minutes, and he looked up and he says, "Well, Pete, you have no choice." I said, "That's what I think, Vinny." He says, "Let's have a drink." And we went across the street and talked about other things for about an hour and had a couple of drinks.
I know what I did was wrong. I didn't realize at the time that it was that serious. I never bet against my team. We never, if I bet against the Packers in those days, I would have lost anyway, because we beat the number so many times it was ridiculous.
The toughest part, I called him because I knew it was going to, something could leak out quickly, and I wanted to talk to him on the phone and try to explain as best I could what I did, what I was going to have to do and why. And his mother, Loretta, answered the phone. Paul was gone. And that hurt. I almost choked up talking to her. And I said, is there someplace I can reach Paul? And I later got in touch with him and talked to Paul. And he was suspended for a year, but he took it like a real man. He knew he'd done wrong. He didn't, to my knowledge, gripe about it one bit. He was a man.
I was doing something wrong for Paul Hornung. I was doing something as a member of the Green Bay Packers that was wrong. I learned it the hard way. I was very happy to, you know, that the National Football League and the people who maintained the vigilance saw fit to let me back in, let me play a couple more years. That was the best decision for me that's ever happened in my lifetime when I was reinstated in the National Football League, and I felt that.
Hornung was reinstated in 1964, but a year's absence from the game had dulled his skills, and he never recaptured the brilliance that had made him, all too briefly, one of football's greatest stars. In 1965, Hornung was benched and disappeared from the limelight he had once found impossible to escape. But then, in the second to last game of the regular season in Baltimore's fog-shrouded Memorial Stadium, a green-shirted ghost came out of the past to lead the Packers to victory. Hornung scored 5 touchdowns as the Packers defeated the Colts 42-27. 2 weeks later, in the NFL championship game against the Browns, the one-time gambler and all-time lover ran for 105 yards and scored the winning touchdown.
Hands off to Hornung, slash over the right side, and Hornung scampers across the 25, down to the 20, into the 15-yard line. Starr takes the ball, hands off to Hornung, sweep to the left side, he's got the block, he's inside the 10, he's at the 5, cuts into the end zone for the touchdown. The Green Bay Packers are the National Football League champions for 1965.
After nearly 3 years in the shadows, Paul Hornung was not only a champion, he was a golden boy again.
Willie Davis was the defensive captain of Vince Lombardi's Green Bay Packers. Because of his sunny disposition, he was known to his teammates as Dr. Feelgood. He never got injured, he never got mad. Willie was the kind of a guy you could tell your worst jokes to and always get a laugh. Herb Adderley, who also played for the Packers, summed up Davis's friendly nature when he said, "When Willie dies and the Undertaker is finished, he'll rise up and say, 'Nice job, buddy.'" When I describe Willie Davis, I find myself talking not only about fun and good fellowship, but also about effort, dignity, and the struggle to make yourself worthy.
In 1960, a black man in Green Bay looked as out of place as Little Richard on stage at the Grand Ole Opry. But in a 10-year career, Willie Davis took his place as one of the great defensive ends in pro football history. He was the war eagle of the Packer defense, swooping in with wings extended and talons bared. There was no escaping Willie Davis, for this bird of prey flew across a football field.
When he was a very small player by today's standards, but gosh, what a competitor. And he got more done, I think, with what he had to offer than anybody I know of.
One of the smaller defensive ends in the league. And I always thought I could block him because he was just too small. What I found was that he was very aggressive in chasing the plays.
Defense, you kind of play with frenzy. You play it with excitement. It was much more exciting to me to be on the attack.
I can't ever remember a football game that he played in where I didn't think Willie Davis played absolutely the best he could possibly play that day.
Davis's fierce determination was born against the Philadelphia Eagles. In the fourth quarter, the man Vince Lombardi said would run across a minefield to make a tackle, hit a tripwire, and title hopes exploded.
I felt that we played maybe cautious, and maybe we were just happy to be there. What I remember most about that ball game is on a play that ultimately turned out to be the big play. And it was a sweep away from me. I chased the play, but I was concerned that maybe I was going to overrun the play and it was going to cut back, and I was kind of like the trail man. As it turned out, all the blocking got wiped out. He turned the corner and went about 30 yards on a third down situation. And I tell you, I lived with that play the entire offseason. And I said, never again in my life would I not make a play that I know in my heart or that I feel that I was supposed to make.
Willie Davis's vow echoed in stadiums and across championship fields that resembled backdrops for the Hound of the Baskervilles. It was here that a Packer defense whose principles were carved in stone became as solid and lasting as Stonehenge. And always there was Willie. Willie chasing Unitas in the fog and causing the $1 million fumble. Slogging through the mud to sack the Browns' Frank Ryan in the 1965 championship. Ignoring frostbite in the chilling championship of 1967.
Of all the defensive ends that I had to look at, I mean, he put as much fear in me because of what he could do and his abilities as any defensive end that I had to face. I mean, you didn't block him.
In Super Bowl I, he punctured the famous floating pass pocket of the Chiefs' Len Dawson. And in Super Bowl II, Davis' ferocious charge shoved the Street Fighters in silver and black into back alleys.
I would like to be remembered in Green Bay as a guy who gave his all. Whenever I had a chance to walk on the field and play, that I played with a certain desire and a certain determination.
Willie Davis is the finest combination of leader and player that I ever saw to this day.
Willie Davis was a leader in Green Bay, Wisconsin, for the blacks and for the Green Bay Packers on defense. He did the job.
I'd just like to say that it's been a great time for me the last 10 years playing here for the Green Bay Packers. I'm surely indebted to my teammates, the Packer organization, but most of all, to you, the fan. I would just like to say it's been more than a game. It's been a way of life. Thank you.
As a quarterback, Bart Starr was a model of efficiency. As a man, he was, and still is, a model of good behavior. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't swear. He leaves the vodka out of his screwdrivers, gets his hair cut regularly, and when he played with the Green Bay Packers, he often insisted that his teammates put their dirty towels in the laundry bin to make the team manager's job easier. Now, don't get the idea that Bart Starr was a wimp, because he wasn't. In tough pressure situations, he filled the soft spots with steel. He played in 6 championship games and won 5. He once threw 294 consecutive passes without an interception, and that's a record that might never be broken. But perhaps the most significant fact about Bart Starr was that he had the ability to adjust, to work and to grow, and most importantly, to eventually become what his quiet but driving ambition demanded, to be a champion.
In 1958, the Green Bay Packers were the worst team in the NFL. Their quarterback was a shy, courteous young man named Brian Bartlett Starr, who seemed to be living proof of the old adage, nice guys finish last.
We beat Green Bay 40-0, and then Bart just had a miserable game. And the fans were booing him in Green Bay, if you can imagine that. And after losing 40-0, instead of, ducking his head and running for the tunnel, Bart came over and congratulated us. Great guy.
In 1959, the Packers hired coach Vince Lombardi, a determined winner who had no patience for gracious losers.
Well, I think that Coach Lombardi probably felt that I wasn't strong enough to be the leader that he was looking for. He was volatile, explosive, impulsive, loud, abrasive, nasty, if you will, and I wasn't. Probably I gave the impression to him that I wasn't as strong a leader maybe as he had hoped for. But what he didn't know was what was underneath. I really think that performance always speaks much louder than words.
In 1960, Starr's steady performance earned him the starting role, and the underdog Packers fought their way to the top of the Western Conference. While running backs Jim Taylor, number 31, and Paul Hornung became national heroes, the quarterback who gave them the ball was ignored and often blamed for the team's failures.
Hell kind of football is that we're playing out here today? Oh, God. Oh, get him out of there, will you?
Belittled by his coach and bullied by his opponents, Starr's faith and courage were constantly tested. He stood up to the punishment and abuse with a quiet defiance, and even Lombardi soon learned that Starr's gentle nature gave no hint of the fire that glowed within.
A lot of people mistake kindness for weakness, and Bart Starr stood up to Lombardi every time he should have.
I told him, I said, look, Coach, I said, I can take all of the chewing you want to dish out. And I said, I understand your personality, and that's all well and good. And I said, that doesn't bother me. I said, but what does bother me is the fact that you're telling the team one thing, that you're expecting certain things of your leaders, of your quarterbacks, and you expect me to go out there and lead them. And I said, I can't do that if you're going to chew me out in front of them. I said, now, if I've got a chewing out coming, fine, but do it in the privacy of this office where you apologize to me when you know you're wrong. I said, otherwise, don't ever expect me to go out there and be your leader. And he never, ever raised his voice to me again.
competitive fires in Bart Starr were well banked and deeply hidden, but Lombardi fanned them to a blaze, and Starr changed from a man who used to lean on his team to one who could lead it. Starr was a player that Lombardi never thought would make it, but few coaches ever got more out of a player than Lombardi got out of Starr.
Starr always seemed to me to be an extension of Lombardi on the field. Bart was, I think, the perfect coach's quarterback in a sense that if Lombardi said, here are the 6,000 things I want you to do, Bart would go out and do probably almost all of those 6,000 things. And he always played the percentages. Smart percentage player, not a gambler. In other words, if he had a back who was covering a receiver tight, the ball was always low. Bart knew that there was a chance that the ball wouldn't be caught, but no chance that it would be intercepted if it was thrown that way.
Bart Starr is probably one of the purest gentlemen you'll ever want to meet. But on the football field, he'll cut your heart out and show it to you. He probably completed more fourth down and one passes than anybody in pro football. People don't remember him as that, but I have, because I was on the sidelines and listened to the discussion, and Coach Lombardi would say, what's he going to call? Is he going to run it on fourth and one? I said, Coach, you can bet he's going to throw it. I think the quality of a great leader, of a great quarterback, is being able to deliver when you have to. Anybody can play when there's really nothing at stake, regardless of the game, regardless of the situation. But I really think the measure of the player is how well he plays under pressure when you have to win.
Above all, Bart Starr was the consummate pressure player, and he proved it by winning 5 championship games, more than any quarterback in history. In 1966, Lombardi's Packers won their second straight NFL championship game and 4th league title when Starr threw 4 touchdown passes to defeat the Dallas Cowboys. Later, in the first Super Bowl, the Packers defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 35-10. Starr was named the most valuable player, and the coach who once doubted him had by now become his biggest fan, and together they went on to make pro football history. In the 1967 championship game, a small step for Bart Starr was a giant leap for the Green Bay Packers, who became the first and only team in NFL history to win 3 consecutive championship games. In the second Super Bowl, the Packers crushed the Raiders 33-14, and Starr was again named the game's most valuable player. Unlike most of the great quarterbacks, Bart Starr was made, not born, and the lessons of his life seem clear.
One of my favorite quotes is from William Jennings Bryan, and I think it sums up how I feel about my career and what I was able to accomplish when he said that destiny is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. It is not something to be wished for, it is something to be attained.